Hey, boo-boo. Hey, bear. No bears, just gummy bears. Hello again, trail friends. It's Carley here, checking in post-tour divide with a race recap video. It's been a little bit over a month since I came off the trail, and I just now feel ready to talk about it. So here we go. I hope everyone had as good a time this summer dot watching as I did on the tour divide. I've been home, yes, for a little over a month, and during that time, it's been a lot of rest and recovery, including some foam rolling and stretching. A lot of rest, a lot of food. And I think it was about 2 weeks after getting home, I began some local gravel group rides with the community, which has been so amazing. The purpose of this video will be a rough edit of all the phone footage I took very rapidly while I was racing out there this summer. But I wanted to put together that for everyone and for myself to remember the joy and the pain and suffering. And then stay tuned for a future video where I will do a little more formal race recap on my experience, what I thought I did well, what I will do better in the future, as yes, there will be a future. And yes, then I'll be continuing to edit and put out days 36 through 54 of the GDMBR tour from the summer of 2024. So it's good to be back. All right, strap in. Hop on board. Here comes, in rough edit fashion, my experience of the Tour Divide 2025. Doo! With 1 week until the grand depart, I wrapped up a final, fully loaded training ride on home turf, while also snapping a photo to send to bikepacking.com for the Rigs of the Ride report. Feeling confident. I spent some time with friends and family at home whom I knew I would miss while being gone for the race for so long. With 5 days until the grand depart, I stood in the garage and questioned if I'd gotten all the gear. I then decide I do not and go across town grabbing last-minute items. Then, set to the backdrop of a rising, almost full strawberry moon, I break down my bike and gear and pack it into boxes for the plane ride to Canada for the next day. I have a mild moment of panic, realizing either I can't pack a bike box efficiently or I've got too much stuff, especially if I'm packing 2 bike boxes. I throw all of my remaining life items into storage. Bike packing makes you think minimalist and lightweight, even in real life when you're off the bike. This is a bonus side effect of bike packing. Then I got driven and dropped off at the airport. All right, I'm on my own now. Let the solo, self-supported journey begin. I learned how to navigate giant bike boxes in a busy airport, while this being my first time back in an airport since 2019. I calmly walked to my gate, followed by a mild panic run back to the front of the airport to explain the not real e-bike battery sticker on my used bike box to the airport officials. I still make my flight and board my first plane in almost 10 years. I suddenly remember I've always been a nervous flyer, and perhaps the fears have only gotten worse. Oh, the takeoff is the worst! Goodbye, Oregon. Hello, Calgary. Bike and I make it to the same final destination. Shwoo! A very good pre-race achievement. My very first time out of the country, I enjoy a rising, almost strawberry moon over Banff, Canada. Before going to bed on June 9th, I experienced my very first international phone plan fiasco. Waking up in the morning I realize I am in the Disneyland of the outdoors. I enjoy a breakfast on a Banff bench with my bike while awaiting a taxi ride to a local bike shop for bike assembly. I called and arranged the bike assembly 4 weeks in advance. I got real skilled at dragging my bike and box around. And while waiting for my bike to be assembled, I discovered the hostel kitchen. This was my first ever experience with a hostel, and I loved it. I then discovered the hostel's community lounge room. Ah, very nice. Tour divide, what? I get a phone call that my bike is ready to roll and walk over to pick it up. Thank you, Snow Tips Backtracks. I ride down Main Street of Banff like a kid in a candy store. Come back to a vibey hostel, and then go for a short shakedown ride at the start of the tour divide, feeling the chills of the tread marks of legends that have gone before. Then I encounter a major panic at a glitch in my bike GPS map unit, and I later learn about something called base maps that you are supposed to download to your device when traveling outside of your home region, and especially when you're riding internationally. I encountered even more panic when I am unable to download said base maps due to some sort of glitch, either with my Coros Dura or with my cell phone plan, or maybe both. But I calm down over a basket of tacos and commit to just following the other riders through Canada until I get to the US. It'll all work out, right? Precise mapping isn't that important, is it? 2 days until Grand Depart, I go for another short shakedown ride and get lost in the Banff majesty. Then realize I'm basically riding around a Jurassic Park with all the trail path fencing and electric crossings to keep the grizzlies away from the paths and busy highways.
No.
I return to a flooded hostel after a massive sudden downpour and warm up in the cozy and quiet, for now, bar at the hostel. I begin to unpack the second bike box that contains my bags and gear, and I fine-tune my bike setup with a bike box picnic halfway through. Sitting back, I admire my work. The day before the Grand Depart, I go for one final short shakedown ride and feel as ready as I'm gonna be. I pedal over to Pro Image Signs and Printing to pick up my race fundraiser cards for the Autism Society of Oregon. I raced to raise awareness and funds for undiagnosed females with autism. A link to information on undiagnosed female autism and why it matters is in the description box below, and you can still donate if you'd like to.
Okay, I've been noticing all these racers' rigs are like clean, sparkling clean. So mine's a little dirty. So this is about to happen, because we gotta keep it clean. Clean bikes go further. Okay, here we go.
I started to meet and connect with some really great people in the days leading up to the Grand Depart, including this amazing get-together of riders, including Rob from last year's GDMBR tour for me. Do you recognize them? All of these folks now feel like friends for life. There's something really unique and special about the shared experience of something like the Tour Divide that'll unite you with your trail friends for life. And then, after almost a year of preparation and waiting, just like that, it was race morning.
No bears, just gummy bears. All right, we're at the base of what's called Koko Claims. This is the climb that I've been worried about all year. I'll check in with you later. Everyone wish me luck. I've been freaking out for 2 days. Wow, a whole year. Oh God, I really want to do it. I want to do it. And then type 2 fun. One step at a time. I'll get to the top. Oh, Koko Claims. More Sour Patch Kids.
Woo! It's flat right here. You only have this far to go.
Spoiler alert, it was indeed not the top. That was only the first of 3 summits on Koko Claims. This is also when I met Gary, a tenacious rider from Pennsylvania, and we shared the summit together.
Nice job, guys. Yeah. Beast.
Good morning, Chris, from day 3. In case you wanted to know what the river looks like in the light. Headed into Fernie. Yoo! First town! Yo!
First town day was exciting and I felt accomplished. I donated my well-worn shoes, which crossed their 500th mile as I hiked my bike up to the top of Koko Claims. And then I checked into my second hostel of the trip and did some resupplying at the grocery store. Followed by eating some good dinner before calling it a night. After doing some dot watching, that is. Day 4 included a good climb out of Fernie, where I made full use of my 600% gear range on my priority bike. I enjoyed my pickle point at the top of the climb and the fact that I hadn't oiled my chain in 4 days. I made it to Butt's cabin, where I enjoyed some more snacks before pedaling on into a surprise wild horse situation. Followed by camp at Ram Wigwam Campground, with now familiar trail friends.
Dun, dun, dun.
Crossing an international border into the United States on my bicycle got me to thinking about being an American woman, and well, this happened.
American woman, stay away from me. American woman, mama let me be. Don't come hanging round my door. I don't wanna see your face no more. I got more important things to do. Spend my time going on with you. Now woman, stay away. American woman, listen what I say.
Before long, we arrived in Eureka, and like any true Tour Divide racer, we all stopped in to eat our weight in Subway sandwiches. Powered by a footlong, I pedaled further toward another hostel called the Bicycle Station. where I got to know Greg, who, yes, packed a full laptop for his first few days on the Divide until he later mailed it home. The bicycle station was amazing. This one-room facility with an outdoor shower had all I ever needed in a real home. I fantasized that one day I might be able to call a humble and cozy place like this, with a never-ending stream of weary travelers as my company, my own home. Maybe. One day.
Morning of day 6. There's my competition. I'm coming for you. I'm coming for you, Patch. He says those of us in the back aren't racing. We're racing too, dang it. Come on, catch him. Ah! Alright, I'm making a... And Oregon takes over Colorado. Yoo! Well, Colorado's coming back. Colorado's passing Oregon. There's the junction where we went last year. All right. I know this section now. Yoo! Let's go. Glacier National Park. Shouldn't be a bad view for after lunch.
And this is where I began to feel the beginnings of homesickness. I had thought because I pedaled this route last year, I'd be a monster at it, and though I did tear up the trail, going up and over Red Meadow Pass and into Whitefish in a record time, I did so with a sadness in my heart. I longed for Rowdy Dog's smile in the basket in front of me. I longed for a relationship I had built up of Aaron and I, one that I had been nurturing for years and one which, if I'm being honest, had been disappearing this past winter and more rapidly this past spring. The memories from last year were deeply rooted here on this section of the Tour Divide, and they played out in vivid form as I sailed past each familiar tree stump, blade of grass, and bend in the trail. Was I trying to relive something that had been vanishing and was long gone? I was also beginning to feel some fatigue from the prior 5 days, going faster and longer and heavier than I had originally planned. Fueled by adrenaline and the desire to prove that I'm not that slow, the descent off of Red Meadow Pass into Whitefish seemed to take forever, and with each mile I lost momentum. And in a fit of despair, once I was near enough to Whitefish, I pulled off onto the side of the highway, sat on the dirt, tore into some Cheez-Its, and booked an unplanned hotel room in Whitefish. There, I'd reassess. Before falling asleep that evening in my hotel bed, eyes bleary, I Googled train tickets home, and at the last second I put my phone down. This was part of the journey, fatigue setting in. Day 6, having me want to quit, I'd persevere and lean into the discomfort. Morning of day 7 had me pedaling the short distance to McDonald's, where I had a good phone call with Coach Justin about my state, and then I pedaled on to Columbia Falls, where I visited A7 Cycles and was greeted warmly by Loki Dog and owners Lynn and Travis. My bike was running fine, but did need a swap out from the salsa fork-mounted cages to the king cages because the plastic eyelet of the salsa cages had worn out and had broken, perhaps solving once and for all the mystery of what caused my entire front tire failure at the end of last year's GDMBR.
That ain't right. You can hear like spoke nipples rattling around. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great.
Okay, that's not an optimal wheel for the Divide.
Okay, thank you for that diagnosis.
I did a quick gear resort with Loki in the parking lot, checked the weather forecast for the next few days, which called for lots of rain and possibly snow, hesitated, then drank a bunch of caffeine and pedaled on into the next section of trail.
Day 7 Tour Divide. They took away my racing job. I'm out here pushing limits. But I guess I'm not racing anymore. I've never entered a race, like a marathon. And they're like, oh, you're not gonna finish in 2 hours? And you didn't run a marathon. You don't get a medal. But anyway, I sat back there trying to decide if I'm pushing on into this winter weather. And I've got a plan. I'm pushing my limits and I'm going in. Civilization is behind me. A couple of days of rain and snow and cold are ahead of me. Let's go! Tour Divide, baby!
I pedaled late into the evening, where the trail sent me a sign to slow down with this one lone turtle just hanging out in the middle of the trail. I listened and set up camp. Wild camping with a lot of mosquitoes, rain, and what I thought were bear sounds all night long. I didn't sleep a week. Day 8 would be the hardest day on trail for me out there. But life doesn't deal you lemons without giving you a bit of lemonade too, and on this particular day, my lemonade came in the form of Chris, who saw me drag my soggy, sorry self into the Hungry Bear Cafe just north of Holland Lake, Montana, where later he would describe his first impression of me to our trail friends as, "She looked like a piece of limp, wet lettuce." To which I say, spot on description, mate. I couldn't have described how I was feeling on day 7 any better. It was raining so much on day 7 that my phone stopped working from the wetness early on in the day, and so I only have 5 still shots from this day. My meeting of Chris and these 4 shots from Holland Lake Campground, where I spent the night. What made day 7 exceptionally hard was the culmination of all the things that seemed to come together and hit me at once. My mental state took a turn with my homesickness and getting my racing dot status taken away from track leaders the day prior. And my physical state was in a nosedive between the sleep deprivation from the night prior, and more importantly, from hitting the fatigue wall from 7 days of going harder, faster, and farther than I was trained for, with some added female issues going on to boot. And lastly, the cold, wet, non-stop rain was not helping anything. I think days-long rain is my bikepacking kryptonite, which is crazy to me considering I come from rainy Oregon in the Pacific Northwest. But here's the thing when it comes to the lows of the Tour Divide, it gives you some highs, and that was my part of my master plan I had devised the day prior.
And I've got a plan.
I'd pedal into this rainstorm and I'd hole up at Holland Lake, where our Trail Angel camp host from last year would hopefully be again there this year, and it would lift my spirits. And wouldn't you know it, just like last year, I pedaled my crazy wet lettuce leaf self into Holland Lake Campground, and Kirk was there. Last year, when we pedaled just as equally soggy and wet from days of rainy riding into the campground, he greeted us by saying, "Oh, you're one of the crazy ones," referring to the bikepackers of his campground instead of the RVers. Last year, he helped us start a fire in the pouring rain, and this year he insisted on taking Chris and my soggy cold shoes and put them in his boot warmer in his RV overnight so we could start our morning the next day with at least warm shoes. Which meant the world to me as I began to pull out and set up my tent, by first wringing out the ground tarp like it was a soggy towel and staring in amazement at the rivets of water that oozed out. Kirk, the camp host, genuinely cares for all of his campers at his campground, but gives extra attention to the condition and needs of the riders that roll in. Just his smile and presence and understanding of what we're doing out there is all that's needed. But he often goes above and beyond, if he can, and it's truly one of the magic spots of the trail. Seeing him and ending my day there made all the difference in helping me to keep moving southbound on my journey on the Tour Divide. With a warm spot in my heart and shoes warming across the campground, I fell asleep staring up at my still soggy from the sleepless night before ceiling of my tent as more rain began to pelt it and the mesh of the tent ceiling threatened to drip down on me. Morning of day 9, waking up on Holland Lake. It had rained throughout the night and dumped fresh snow atop our next pass, Richmond Peak. Over coffee, Chris and I weighed out our options, pedaling up the pass into what was most likely deep snow and a very long day of post-holing, wondering if we could even make forward progress if it got deep enough, or we considered briefly staying another night at Holland Lake to wait out some snowmelt, before we thoughtfully opted for a third option, to break away from the set trail and take an alternate route around Richmond Peak. It would put us on a busy, no bike shoulder highway with low visibility due to the rain, but we determined that was the safer option than putting ourselves in jeopardy at the top of Richmond Peak. Which was really too bad because I quite enjoyed Richmond Peak last year. To make the dangerous highway route safer, Chris and I agreed we would ride the 20-something rainy miles to the next town, Seeley Lake, together, figuring 2 cyclists were more visible than one. Clipping in, I pulled my rain hood over my helmet and had hoped that my highest of high-vis raincoat selection for this trip would stand out on the highway, protecting me. 20-something handlebar-clutching miles later, we arrived in Seeley Lake, where the clouds briefly lifted and my spirits alongside them as I enjoyed some burgers and fries and a shake with this friendly fella, while listening to the crazy tale of riders Alex and Heinrich who had a monstrous night on top of Richmond Peak the night before. They had opted to start pedaling up at 6:30 p.m. to beat the snow, only to have terrible weather, bike mechanicals, and a crash for Heinrich that had only made a previous crash of his worse. I'm telling you, their stories had me right on the very edge of my seat. I couldn't imagine the night they had while I slept in my soggy tent next to Holland Lake. Heinrich, with his injuries, had been set up with a kind local trail angel while he navigated some healing, while Alex stood excited before me sharing his tale, and I was so grateful to see him now, warm and cozy in his poofy coat, sipping coffee, eyes still bright from the adventure, eager to pedal on for more, or more accurately, walk on. In the dark weather fiasco atop Richmond Peak, Alex's entire bike chain was lost, leaving him with no option but to walk his bike 26 miles to the next town, Ovando, where a new bike chain was waiting for him. I felt fortified by my burger and fries and shake, but I felt bad for him as I saddled up and popped my helmet back on. I'll never forget the great attitude he had about the challenge, simply saying, with a gleam in his eye, "It's part of my journey." And with that, I broke away from Chris and a new trail friend Jeff and enjoyed a solo journey in the rain to Ovando, where I was greeted with a rainbow and sun at the very end of my day. By this point, I was feeling pretty fatigued. What do they say? I was in the hurt locker. And the 0 day prior helped, but it seemed I needed more rest days. And having done one alternate route the day before, I decided to do the same on this day, opting to skip Huckleberry Pass and take some quick road miles from Ovando to Lincoln, Montana. The bike shoulder on the highway was wide leading out of Ovando, so I felt like this was a good decision. Halfway to Lincoln, though, the bike shoulder ended and I was back to riding no shoulder on a low visibility due to the rain, high-speed highway. Solo this time. A lot of prayers were muttered, and one truck's extra-wide mirror almost hit me later. I swore to the bike gods that I'd never take a shortcut again if I could just make it safely to Lincoln. Drenched in rain and deeply chilled to my bones, I somehow made it safely to town and pedaled up to a diner that had its AC on, so I put on all my overnight camp clothes to quell the chills and eat, hoping the winter weather would disappear for the next big climb, my good old friend from last year.
Heading to Stemple Pass. little mid-tour divide fact moment. Did you know that only 9 to 10% of the starters of the tour divide are, you guessed it, women? So just a mad shout out to all of us ladies out there, including the 11-year-old that I woke up next to this morning, who rolled in late last night, riding with her dad. If you need a good podcast listen to the women of the 2025 Tour Divide, check out this podcast. Ooh.
This is Karen Pocock taking my rookie run.
Alexandra Houchin here, lining up for my 6th attempt of the Tour Divide.
Tammy Kearns. This will be my first time racing the Tour Divide.
Carley, I have not raced the Tour Divide before.
I'm Anin, I'm 18 years old, and it's my first Tour Divide, or for that matter, any ultra race.
Shannon Allison, I am a rookie.
Anna Jager, this is my 3rd go.
Leah Wilcox, this will be my 6th race.
Oh, Stemple Pass. How I did not miss you all year. Luckily, there are some alpacas at the end of all of this today. No matter what happens, today ends in petting some alpacas. Let's go. Stemple Pass. So after suffering for like 2 hours hiking a bike up a hill, you come around a corner at the top of the summit and you just turn a corner and there's a valley and you descend into the beauty. It's the best. It makes the suffering worth it. Downhill time, yo!
Along with some much-needed sunshine and a speedy fast ascent into the iconic Llama Ranch of the Tour Divide, the trail would provide more joy to end the day in the form of these lovely alpacas and, unexpectedly, Mira, the bike-packing dog. Suddenly, I felt at home on trail again, with a smiling canine at my feet. I would drift off to sleep this night in a 3-sided cabin on a cot next to Heinrich, staring out at the stars as we both talked about our dogs at home until we fell asleep. His dog recently passing away, but a new puppy would be greeting him when he finished the Tour Divide. With the uncertainty in my own life, I wondered if my own dog, Rowdy, would be waiting there for me. Day 12, I pedaled away from Llama Ranch and pointed my tires towards Helena, where I would scratch from the race and make arrangements to head home. I had gone too hard and too far too early in the race for what I was trained for, and my body needed a big rest. I enjoyed my solo trek in the familiar section leading into Helena, and then booked a hotel, flopped on the bed, and immediately booked a flight home before I overthought it too much, and had a wonderful shower and ordered some takeout before falling into a deep, deep sleep. Helena, Montana, I'm pulling the plug. It's been a good adventure. I got to do the Canada section. I did Koko Claims. I did the wall. I pushed my limits. I went too fast, too long, on too heavy of a loaded bike. And my body is just fatigued. But my heart and soul is full of the adventures. And I'm still basking in the glow of all the people I met from all over the world and got to ride with. But yesterday coming in out of Llama Ranch and pushing up that stupid climb out of Llama Ranch that I forgot about from last year,
my body is pretty fatigued. There's a lot of folks here with bigger problems than me that would pull them off trail. We've got pneumonia. We've got probably broken clavicles. But I don't have any of that. I just have fatigue. I've learned a lot from this race that I would do differently next time. And but I'm flying home. And just wanted to put that out there. Well, and I also just checked, you can see here, that you can see that I've raised $951 of my $1,000 goal for my fundraiser. So, I mean, all in all, I feel like this was a success. I had a lot of great conversations with folks along the trail around the topic of female undiagnosed autism. My favorite was meeting a special education teacher in Fernie in the bike shop. And he was confounded why there were so many boys in his class, but no girls, or like one girl. And so, I think this was a success. And I can continue to raise that money post-ride as well to hopefully meet that 1,000 goal of raising the money. If you feel inclined and you haven't done so already, feel free to donate. You can find the link in the description box below. I mean, Canada, I was on fire. I had all the motivation, and that was uncharted territory for me. I didn't ride that section last year, so it was all new to me. And then the minute I got back on the trail from last year, my mindset just immediately shifted and changed, and I got into like homesick mode, and I just didn't have that fire you need to keep pushing. I think that combined with the rain we had for quite a few days, that seems to be my kryptonite. I was down in the dumps. I don't like riding and camping in the rain for days on end. And then my body just kind of started to give up physically, and I could take a lot of rest days, but and then keep pushing on, but I don't know. I've got some dogs at home waiting for me. Henry, Leonardo, Vix, Loki, Macaroon, Joey, Joe Bro, I miss ya. I'm coming home for ya. We're gonna go on some adventures, and especially Rowdy Dog. Homesick, ready to get back to work at home. Feel like this was a success, and I've got other races in the future that probably won't include pushing my bike up hills for 3 hours a day. I'd rather ride my bike than push it. This is a very tough race, and I don't know how I did it last year. It certainly wasn't racing. That's part of how I did it. And I also had Rowdy to motivate me. But I mean, to everyone who's out there that's moved on, that I've been riding with, keep it up, man. You guys are animals. The scenery is amazing. The sense of accomplishment is above anything you'll ever experience in life. And it's been an honor to ride with everyone from Germany to Australia to New Zealand to Poland to Spain. It's just a life experience that I'll never forget. So until next time, life's a journey. So ride on.
The next day, I visited Big Sky Cycles, who kindly helped me package my bike and ship it back home using a program called Bike Flights, where I would later learn the answer to the most asked question I got during the Tour Divide experience. How heavy is your rig and gear? Turns out, 95 pounds. I landed back home, tired and defeated the next day after that, with only my lightweight backpack I had used during the divide, still packed with a couple of Snickers bars and Sour Patch Kids, and knelt down to Rowdy's sweet face, who indeed greeted me at the arrivals. First order of business back at home was for this Oregonian gal to get her feet in the sand at the ocean and do some centering and recalibrating. And it feels like to me, Aaron and I continue to forge an uncertain relationship, our paths seemingly going in different directions at times, as it really always has been for us. But maybe that's the healthiest kind of a relationship of all, one that creates periods of autonomy and periods of togetherness. After a couple weeks of a lot of taking it easy, getting lots of rest and adjusting to eating normal portion sizes again, I've gotten back out there, spending time on trail with all of my fur friends as their adventure buddy, combined with a few bike rides a week. Full confession, it's gravel bike, drop bar style. These rides feel like I'm riding a toothpick rocket ship, and I seriously can't get enough of it right now. Better yet, I've been doing so with a rad community of women, enjoying the connections. However, bikepacking is still in my blood, and I've got more trips planned. Just learning how to pack lighter and get the correct amount of training volume in before I tackle my next big bikepacking race. And that, my trail friends, brings you up to speed. I've enjoyed all the comments and encouragements while I was out there racing, reading every word you wrote, even though I couldn't respond at the time. They seriously helped pull me forward when it got really tough out there. And a huge thank you to my real in-life trail friends I met along the Tour Divide this year. Sean, Clint, Alexander, Juan, Jeff, Patch and Jules, Greg and Gary, and Gary's wife, Emily, Kirk, the campground host, Loki Dog and Mira Dog, and most deeply Chris, who met me in my lowest of low points. And just so many others. The people is what makes the experience, and I'll never forget you. The Tour Divide, it's touted as a solo, self-supported endeavor. However, no one can accomplish anything great without the help of many along the way, from airline staff to bike shop employees, restaurant staff, church volunteers, taxi shuttle drivers, convenience store clerks, campground hosts, ranchers, first responders, random alpacas and random strangers and so on. Make no mistake about it. The kind generosity of this network of folks along the racing route is what pulls each and every one of the racers along, from the elite to the amateur racers, and it is what makes each racer's athletic achievement possible. Without them, racing the Tour Divide would not be possible, nor meaningful. Thank you. So there you go. That's a rough edit of my Tour Divide experience of 2025. 11 days on trail. Since being home, it's just been a lot of rest and recovery, and trying to figure out what's next. Certainly got a little bit of the racing bug while out there. I've never been one to be super competitive. In the high school softball team, I'm pretty sure I got cut because I wasn't competitive. I was more out there for the fun. But I did get bit by the bug while I was out there. And so I'm currently looking at a lot of local gravel and mountain bike one-day races, and getting inspired by that. And I'm also looking into getting back to running more. I miss that. And so I think that's what's next for me. And so, thanks for hopping on board and joining the journey. And stay tuned for a future video. I'll do a little bit more detailed breakdown of gear, what worked well, what didn't, things I did well, what I didn't do well, what I do in the future. And then I'll also keep editing and releasing the GDMBR tour from summer of 2024 when we dog packed the GDMBR. So stay tuned for that and whatever's in the future. What else would I say? I suppose that's it. Yes. So if you have any other questions, think about submitting them, and I'll work to reply to all your questions or include it in a future video. And I'm hoping my failures can be your lessons learned and avoided for the Tour Divide or other things bike packing. I know one of the questions is, will I come back for Tour Divide in the future? The answer to that is, stay tuned to next time and I'll tell you. Bye friends, happy trails.